arcs across. And then they sort of rebuilt it, and now it looks like this. Yeah, it's the same ship. It's sort of difficult to see that it's sailing in a different direction and the background is different, but it's the same ship. And the thing was, if you look at the tank, which it says Aga on there, which is not really easy to see, but there's a big tank, which is a crypto tank with LNG, floating natural gas. And what they had hoped for, of course, was to just put it on deck under the steering hut there and just have it ready by that. But then it proved impossible because the regulations didn't allow for the crew to be on top of dangerous cargo. So they sort of had to, it soon proved that they had to rebuild the whole thing. So maybe they could have built a new ship, cheaper. This, just the budget here just went over the top, and it ended up like, I think, 5 times what they had expected from the beginning. And because there were no regulations really to follow when they built this. And here she is then meeting her first date with her big friend, which is the world's first LNG ferry in Grace. And you see at the back of the big ship, you see her 2 big tanks. She has twice the capacity of the bunker ship. So they bunker in 45 minutes because Viking Grace does a 1-hour turnaround in Stockholm every day. So 6:45, 7:45, and they bunker in 45. They bunker 700 cubic meters in 45 minutes. So she comes in with the long, they call it this navel, like an elephant. She comes in with this tube hanging onto Viking Grace, dock for less than 1 hour, fill the tanks, and off she goes. So, and this is in the middle. You see the houses on top right there. It's in the middle of Stockholm. It's in the middle of Stockholm. And this has been a very long operation to get these permissions. There's been so many people involved in this. And for Viking Grace then, they had, you can see on top there of the ship, there's 3 people watching there. Because they are not, when this picture is taken, they are not bunkering, they're just testing. Because they're not allowed to be on that, if you're not in the bunkering operation, you're not allowed to be in that part of Viking Grace. So they close off that corner of the ship. While, so this is not real bunkering, and that's why you have 3 people watching up there. So there was a lot of operations to do this. This is from the very port of Trelleborg, which I just showed the lowest, very south tip of Sweden. On the right, the lower right hand there, you see this is from the street leading down to the port. You can think that this is the road straight to Germany because it goes straight into the open ship there. So the door of the ship is just about 100 meters away from the street going along the coastline in the city. And then this the other picture is from the what is then the upper the upper left of the ship as you see it there. And this is over the parking area and the other parts of the port. And what you can see at the distance there, the horizon nearly, is there another ship calling in, and you can see in front of between this ship I'm standing on and the ship coming, there is the dredger going on, dredging in the port, and the new breakwaters you can see all the way pointing to the ship coming in out there. So they're building new breakwaters and extending the port. So the old breakwaters will be taken away, and it will basin to the right there will be filled in. It will be explored for housing, and the whole port will move westwards or to the left. And here they had this TT line project. This is on a TT line ship. And when they're installing scrubbers here, they will have to, that got a little dimmer on the picture than it's here on the screen. So pity you can't see the screen. But when they install the scrubbers, they will lose about 6 slots of trailer space on board in the lower deck. And on the other one, on the right-hand side there, you see the hole coming up into the funnel. So what you saw on the last picture, it's along the lifeboats there. You see the funnel coming up. And it's from inside that you see on the right-hand side, lower right. So that is where they're going to get up all the pipes, and we're going to build this, should we call it, catalyst, the what will clean the exhaust air from sulfur before letting it out through the tunnel. And that is 1.20 meters in diameter, and it's exactly what is this space there. So there will be no way of evacuation through here, and there's no space, so they will lose a lot of space down on the deck. So they will lose space, loading space for trailers, and they will have to install a lot of space up here will be full, and they will put the weight higher in the ship, and they will have to have more ballast water to balance out this. And they will probably have to have one guy more in working as an engineer on board to handle this equipment. And when they asked suppliers for equipment, they only got one offer. That was in December 2012. So for this big Seca area, and with the Commission thinking that we will be supplying scrubbers for a lot of ships, they got one offer in December with no guarantee. So they got a supplier but no guarantee. So the supplier wasn't even sure that he would guarantee his own equipment. So that's how the situation is in the scrubber area. Now we come to 2013, and now you may all know that there was a lot more money in that state for applying for. And here is 13 out of 38 projects that Sweden applied for. And we had practically all bigger railway construction, all bigger tunnel construction, all bigger bridge constructions. We applied for funding for all of these. Hard funding, because it's normally like 10-20% of the cost we can get back, if we're lucky. But on the other hand, if it's a project worth £1 billion, in some cases £1 billion, if we can get 10% back on that over 3 years, it's a lot of money. And even if you spend 3 months on a consultant, I mean, it's that's peanuts compared to the money you get back, if you're lucky. We have had a success rate, you could say previously, about 30-40%. And the total sum applied for this time for Sweden was £500 million. We applied for support for £500 million. So if we have a 40% success rate on that, it's still 200 million. It's still 200 million pounds. For maybe we put in maybe 10, I would guess like 10 to 12 work years of manpower in this. And now all these projects are then to just run them through, and it's not all it's only the, what's here is only what is shipping related. It's not all projects, of course, it's the bridges and the tracks, blah, 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 so not here. So here is then the Stena Line methanol conversion of the first out of 19 major railroads, that they will convert to methanol instead of putting on a scrubber, instead of converting to LNG, instead of running on low sulfur diesel. So they will instead go for methanol as fuel. Lightweight scrubbers, it's another idea behind scrubbers, which will be smaller, lighter than the other ones, the ones I just showed there for TT lines. But it's so secret still. It's 1 year, we have 1 year and 6 months to go. It's so secret that in the application, because I've read all this application, because I'm sort of the feedback for the government in this case, I've read all the application. It's still so secret in March 2013 that they don't tell how big it is, how much the weight of it is. But they still call it lightweight. I mean, how can you know that when you read an application? I say I produce a lightweight thing. You don't tell how light it is. I would say that's a basic piece of information, but they say it's secret. The problem here is that we sail around Sweden and you need salt water. If you don't have salt water, the present scrubbers doesn't work. So when you get around Sweden here, you get up to where it says Värtan, Södertälje, Gävle, even if you wouldn't pronounce it like that, so that's how you pronounce it in Swedish. When you get there to about the islands of Åland, which is in between Sweden and Finland, the water is not salt enough anymore. So the conventional scrubbers doesn't work halfway up Sweden, because you have water all the way up to the end of the map. Sweden continues for another 500 kilometers, but I've cut right away because there's no coastline. So all the way from about that done up, you have no salt water good enough to run a scrubber. Because there's a lot of rivers feeding in here from both Sweden and Finland, which takes away the salt water. So that's a problem for scrubbers. Brofjord and LNG bunker, that's where we have the Swedish biggest refineries there, and they are using currently liquid petroleum gas stock to run the energy for the refinery, and they will convert that to LNG instead and sell what they now use as feedstock, the LPG. And so they are building a tank, 20,000 cubic meter tank, and they will also build facilities for bunkering ships, and there will be a bunker ship there also that could bunker anything, because it will bunker in the whole area between Sweden and Denmark. It has a very bright future, I would say, not in the next coming few years, but in a few years' time. Gothenburg is together with Rotterdam building LNG infrastructure also, a tank. In a few years, they will start by similar large-sized cryptogenic tank as you saw on the ferry. While in Rotterdam, they will build a big steel concrete tank. But it will feed into the national grid. We have not a very big national grid for gas, but we have one. So it's more, I would say it's more not a shipping project at the moment, because they have no bunker ship and no bunker facility. But in a few years' time, maybe. Malmö Port will extend a little. Trelleborg will build together with Swinoujscie, improve the installations in Trelleborg, and in Swinoujscie they will have from the structural funds. So it's not really, it's sort of a combination project. They do it together with TEN and Trelleborg, but the Polish part will principally come from cohesion funds. LNG Baltic Sea ports, it's again, Trelleborg is a partner there again, together with Sundsvall in the north, in the mid-north you could say, and Burgos Varna in Bulgaria, and Gdansk in Poland. So it's a new combination to take LNG to the Baltic, to the Black Sea. So it's sort of and it will sort of join forces with the other LNG project that we have running already. We'll see how, because it's not possible to join projects, although they're exactly the same ideas, if they have been financed in 2 different years. If they could sort of work together, that's possible. So the Telge bioterminal is sort of handling of wood chips. There's several large heating stations here that buy wood chips from all over the world. Wood chips. You shop the wood down in a small ship, or something similar, or you press it onto briquettes as a transport form, which chop it up again in pieces when you put it into the heater. It's a large thing. You see it when you go by train to Stockholm, you have it under the bridge there. There's always 2 ships there, but small size ships, and they want to have, I mean, they're buying wood chips from South America. Sort of, that means really how little cost transport really is. There are 50,000 ton ships coming from South America with wood chips, and all the way up to the Baltic Sea delivering. And then they sort of put it in the port and then supply the heating stations by truck from the port area. Värtan terminal, I'll soon come back to that. The fairway into Gävle and the port structure, deepening and widening of the fairway. The Kvarken ferry, here we come again to the ferry over to Finland. And here we have the missing thing to supply the free deck for cars. Because that was one of the last things that happened before the ministry signed that application. It was that the 1 million Swedish kronor that the Swedish Maritime Administration were about to supply in this project, out of 300 millions, that million had to be pulled back. So the state didn't support it, because they think that it indirectly would mean that there would be a request for money for an actual ferry. They have now a second-hand ferry from Tenerife, which is ice strength and used to be operating in the Baltic Sea previously, but in 5 or 10 years' time, they must have a new ferry. Because from Sundsvall, which is just about where the quay in Kvarken is, around the end of the Baltic Sea and down to Vasa, it's 800 kilometers to drive that distance. And on both sides along the coast, on the Finnish coast and the Swedish coast, is a TEN motorway. So it's a priority motorway on both sides, but the connection by ship across is not allowed. It becomes sort of a contradiction to what you said previously about the connections between Spain and France. Yeah, and then we have the Luleå Fairway and Port, which is an application that I wrote myself. So if you have any questions about that, I know it very well. Because it takes time to write these applications. It's about 50 pages for each of them. And Luleå Fairway is for the mining, iron ore mining. And maybe you know already, I mean, the EU area imports 85% of its use of iron ore. And 85% out of the 15% of the EU production, 85% comes from Kiruna, comes from the very north of Sweden. So 85% of all iron ore that is produced within the EU area comes from up there. So it's 85% of the 15%, so to say. And there is a railway down to Narvik in Norway, which is in a fjord port, fantastic location, but it's a very sharp fall for a train to go down these 400 meters in just 20 kilometers. So, and it's winding, and there's no space because it's on the hillside, on the fjord side. So reconstructing here is in the reach of about £2 billion to build this, double track this down to Norway. And the other option is to extend the capacity in the port of Luleå, which is the 10th of that figure. But it will still be the biggest dredging project Sweden has ever done if we dredge the fairway in the volumes we are talking about. It will be the biggest dredging project ever in Sweden, but it still will be 10% of the cost to double track from Sweden down to Norway. So it's sort of the proportion, sort of, yeah. Because railway is extremely expensive to build. Extreme. Because here on that stretch we have the strongest pair of locomotives. I don't have that on picture, I have it in the computer. The strongest pair of locomotives used in the world, anywhere in the world. Double locomotive, and it has it pulls 8,000. It has 8,600 tons. The train with wagons when it goes downhill there. So it sort of, it has to, and it nearly goes on zero energy because it refeeds energy into the lines. So it nearly goes on zero energy from Kiruna, the 170 kilometers down to Narvik, because it refeeds so much energy back into the system by breaking down the hill. So these are the projects that we are running. And then we have sort of this special thing here, Mona Lisa, we'll come back to that again. Because now here we have then the conversion. So that was the fun. I had sorry, I can't point really to you there, but the upper left, Stena Line conversion, coming back to that. And this is the Stena Line conversion. This is among the very biggest road-pax ferries we have in the world. 1,300 passengers and 4,400 lane meters. It's on the Kiel-Göteborg route, going past Denmark, you can say, up to Gothenburg. And it has motorways on both sides all the way. So it's in really competition with roads. And this is the one with the lowest profitability. The ferry used to go to UK from the beginning. Has been repainted and renamed. And this will be converted. For those who are interested in engines, it has 4 times 23,000 kilowatt. So it has fairly good, fairly large engines. And these will be converted by 2014 to go on methanol. And to do it on methanol, there's only half the energy in methanol, in 1 liter of methanol compared to diesel. So you need bigger tanks, and it's also slightly corrosive. So you need to change it's slightly corrosive. You need to change a few parts of the engine, small conversion only. But you need a new bunker system. You need new tanks for this. So it's not very. It's an operation, and they have the intention to switch over for 19 ferries within 4 years if they make this work. So it's a lot of. You still have to remember, like methanol now has a world market of 50 million tons. It's a chemical product, which is a base product for a lot of chemical industry. And so the influence from Stena Line, and even after they have converted all the ships, is less than 5% of the world market for methanol. So they don't count on having any influence at all on the price level. And they will run at about half the price of high sulfur oil if they are successful in converting the way they hope they are. But I mean, it's a lot of cost for infrastructure and the new bunker facilities and all this. That's what they go for. The Värtan terminal in Stockholm, this is just a few examples of these different projects. The Värtan terminal, you have the present terminal at the upper picture and the intended terminal, the lower picture. So there will be more space for ships. There will be place for 4 ships instead of 3. And there will also be a lot more space. And it will be the outer one would be a cruise terminal. Because there's a lot of cruise calls in Stockholm. And they have a lot of turnarounds in Stockholm, meaning passenger coming to Stockholm, entering the ship, and people going off the ship, which is the most profitable of all kinds of passengers, because they normally stay an extra night in Stockholm on arrival or on departure, and spend much more money, because they either still have all the money when they come, or they have seen that they still have money left, let's spend it. So it's very important to get turnaround. And this is the second time they applied. They applied last year, but didn't pass. Here is, I was talking about before, it's hard work to do an application. This is the Mona Lisa 2.0 at the time it was sent in. And I hope you notice here from the left hand of the lady until the end of the picture, there's the box. And that box is what we call a cartoon when you move apartments. And it is like 60 centimeters high. And you see it's full with papers. So in that box, you can just guess how much paper is in this box. It's the Mona Lisa 2 application with 38 partners all over Europe. And it's a Windmoss application there, which is to the left there. And the Windmoss application is between Finland, Sweden and Estonia for winter motorways of the sea, ice breaking in the Baltic Sea, which is a normal size application, which is maybe 2-3 kilos. The box with these 2 applications is 43 kilos of paper. 43 kilos. So you send in, I don't know how many of you have made this, but there is a CD here on the left in the box, which is the full applications on a CD, and then you have to send in full paper version of 4 versions, 4 times. So it's 43 kilos of application. It's for 25 million pounds in all, and 50% of that in support. Then. But it takes a while, and it takes good nerves to just get supplies of all this financial information from all these partners all over Europe. So this is, and then it's Magnus Sundström to the left there. I would say the big inventor in the motorways of the sea in Europe, actually. At the office of the Swedish Maritime Administration in Norrköping. I was supposed to end in a minute or 2, weren't I? Yeah, there you go. So my intention was now that you could play this film, which is the latest version of the Mona Lisa. What these 43 kilos are intended to do, or if take away the 3 kilos Windmoss, then you could see what the intentions are for the other 40 kilos. Maybe the box was 1 kilo also, so another 39 kilos had for intention. But I won't do that. You have the link here, and if you log in there, you have the film of, there's 3 films there. There's the intention of the film that was done during Mona Lisa 1 project with the routing and the identification of the shippers. And then you have this latest film, which is based on what is happening in the air. Because CSAR is the big routing system for airplanes, which is as the intention of cutting short as possible flying routes and short approaches and short takeoffs from airports, which saves a lot of energy. And by saving energy, you save a lot of fuels, and by saving a lot of fuels, you cut down on CO2 emissions, you cut down on any kind of emissions, and you save costs. And Mona Lisa 2 has the same ideas. Cut down, make the routes as short as possible, and when it comes back then to what I just explained about hub and spoke system, that you need exact time of departure, exact time of arrival. Well, arrival times then are set by when are the keys free and when will a ship be handled when it reaches a port. There's no use speeding to a port and then waiting 3 hours to get dockers working. So that is the idea here. By indicating well what time that will be operated or what the key will be free, you keep the speed exactly as you want the speed. And then you arrive on the right time, and you save fuel and you save costs. And you don't even need traffic separations anymore, because the system keeps track of where are all the others, and all the other ships can see your information as they can see your AIS today, as the automatic identification system shows. So by being able to click on the other ship, you see their intention, where they're going, where they're coming from, what time they're supposed to arrive somewhere. And they can be followed by the VTS systems ashore on all country. And we have this sort of EMSA regulations coming in with the long-range tracking of ships. And then also this information comes on, and it goes well into what the ANA application, which is one of the other gigantic applications for this 10. And the ANA is the integrated single window for shipping. As you both mentioned earlier, that's it, the application, the problem with a lot of paper handling. And this is what then supposed to be European integration run by the Netherlands, the project administrated by the Netherlands, where all the documentation for all ships, all handling will be done at the same time. And you report only once. You don't report like you've done to the Coast Guard. You report once to Customs, you report once to the administration, once to the port. So you report all in one single window to all administrations at the same time. So that's the idea behind that. So this is the way we normally have to should end at the administration. But thank you for listening. And I mean, you can see here that it's a girl going by train and it's a road. I mean, that's how we should end at the transport administration. And I mean, we are focusing on road. But I mean, I'd rather finish like this. This is Sydfart. This is the oldest ship still listed in Sweden, still in use, built 1887, 280 deadweight, and it's still sailing. And she has changed engine twice and grounded once, but survived, didn't sink. But yeah, it's only 5 years ago or something for the first time. So by this little coastal Sydfart, I would like to thank you all for listening, and all you for listening also, and you in the audience. And we have to thank the technicians who have made this possible. So thank you very much. So any questions, please? Yeah.
Somehow trying to bring the air transport experience on Toronto. The thing is, I know the cultural change, because in open sea, two matters going inside the plant. No? And so how is to advise, no? Master the best optimum saying that in the money on the command on the side. No?
Yeah, the question was that if the Mona Lisa 2 intends to sort of take in the ideas from air flight and say that we have to follow these routes during these times and these passages, because it's passage time is one. I mean, because it also includes here that if you come in a canal and they have ships with cargoes that shouldn't really meet, that will also be included. I mean, you will be given a lower speed not to approach that point, passing close to a ship that has a contradicting cargo. I mean, all these parameters will be included. Also that you don't even pass over a low draft area. It will suggest a route which goes past that. It will suggest a route that goes past an area in the sea, like we talked about yesterday, where we have sort of nesting birds, or we have birds, winter living birds on a not so deep area in the sea. So it will also suggest a route which goes outside of that area. And it's really a good question, because it was presented in the Swedish Maritime newspaper, that sort of the intentions of the Mona Lisa 2. And as you said, it's a mind shift for the captain, because I'm captain, I decide the speed, I decide the direction, I decide how I want to, it's my ship. And that was exactly what the comments were. The comments were, I'm the captain, I should decide my ship. It's not we can't decide that, because it's always the customer, and a lot of blah, blah, blah. But I can also imagine that when they started influencing in the air, telling pilots that you have to fly on 600 meters until you're at a certain point, and then you descend, and not before that. And they were flying with their leather helmets. They also think that I'm sure that they said that these people in the air authorities are stupid because I know how to fly. But I mean, it takes like in the air, it took instruments that could say exactly the height, exactly the speed, exactly the position before you could even introduce that kind of strict regulations. And it's the same thing here with shipping. You must have control of all the ships. You must have hydrographic data of the depth in the water. You must know good weather reporting, weather routing. You must know a lot of information that you can gather in this. And it has technically not been possible before. So of course, you're perfectly right. It's a big shift in the mindset, complete mindset. And the funny thing is, when they have suggested this, because they've been around, Mona Lisa, if you see the list of presentations Mona Lisa have done, the first Mona Lisa have done, it's sort of a complete endless number of presentations. They've been asked to be everywhere on every conference all the time. And what they say, when they come sort of with this idea about putting a card into a reader, transmitting who is on bridge to control working hours, to be able to say who's responsible, they say, we have 100% agreement in all maritime schools. 100%, no question, this is correct. It should be like this. When they speak to active older staff, what are you saying? This is liberty of the sea. I'm captain. So yes, it's a mindset thing, which is a complete shift of what is today.
How do you get on with two administrations, transport and maritime, working together, and who takes the lead on these projects? The other related issue is a lot of these projects can be very closely associated with industry, retention projects with shipping lines and ports.
Mm-hmm.
That seems a very positive thing, but can you say anything about that?
We have the two of us who are working at the Transport Administration. We have both worked previously at the Maritime Administration, which doesn't mean that all issues have been cleared about who's responsible for what and how much responsible for what. And financing is, of course, another issue. The Swedish Maritime Administration is supposed to live from fairway dues, in difference to all other countries except for Finland, which was a part of Sweden at the time. I mean, until the Russians took Finland away from Sweden, it was a part of Sweden, had been for 400 or 500 years. We are the only countries that have fairway dues. So ships pay according to size and cargo load to use the fairway. And then they come into port, they pay port dues and they pay cargo dues again, but to the port. So we have double dues. And Swedish Maritime Administration lives from this and should cover the turnover in that. So financing is, of course, one thing. When we come to all kinds of, I mean, it's both state administration, so all money comes out of the state one way or the other. But yes, I mean, it's no doubt that the Maritime Administration would like to see us pay for everything. Like in this fairway project, it's in the agreement between us, it says that we are the ones who should write the applications. Writing the applications mean that either Alf does it or someone else does it, a consultant or whatever, but I mean, we pay for it. And they then administrate the project. If we win in Luleå, it will be a project administrated by the Maritime Administration. So is the project, the part of the project which is Trelleborg-Swinoujscie, which includes the fairway dredging there also. That comes, when that is finished, there is a bill being sent to the Swedish Transport Administration, and we will pay for it. We will compensate the Maritime Administration for the cost. And then maybe we get money from TM later on also, but that's another issue. So I mean, yeah, we have an agreement, and we have an agreement that we will renegotiate this agreement in the coming autumn, because it says already that from the beginning that we should be 6 to 8 people working with the issues that we are taking over when we were formed. 6 to 8 people working with the issues we are taking over from the Maritime Administration. And we are still only 2 after nearly 2.5 years. So either we are very, very efficient, or we didn't take over everything we should take over. So yes, it has not been clear. That was question 1. Question 2 was the connections, which has a lot of involvement from others. And yes, we have in this international project, I mean, we really see too that we have a lot of involvement from a lot of others. So the more partners we have, it makes it much more complicated to write the application. But if you get it right, it's a very strong application. Because if you have 5, 6, 7, 8 partners, and you can have a clear definition of what each one's going to do, they all fit in well together. You have contributions from all of them. You can show that each one contributes with know-how one way or the other, has expert knowledge in something. It becomes a very strong application, and you're very likely to get funding. I mean, we can say when we had this Baltic Sea LNG project, you saw the Sundström on the picture there. I mean, it was we that wrote 85% of the application, although a consultant took over and made the last 3 things and got the credit. But now I've said it. But I mean, we had the intention to be twice as many, because the more coverage you have, the more difficult. If you read this application, it's very difficult to say no. It's very difficult to say no to an application. I mean, like, we have this ANNA, the single window application coming in now, which has 18 countries. The administrations from 18 countries coming in. I mean, how can anyone say no? I mean, if I read that application, I understand nothing and think it's rubbish, but I can't say no, can I? I can't sit there as a single evaluator saying 18 countries must be wrong. So, I mean, if you can work it out, make it fairly good, you're bound to get money. Yeah, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Isn't she beautiful?
It doesn't look that old then.
No.